Creek Canyon. The other group's going with me on the jet, and we're going to take an aerial tour of the national parks of Utah and then come back. So hopefully you won. We'll see. Anyway, I want to start off by just telling my story. I like to do that just briefly because I know how many people are new. It's your first summit, your first event, really your first big event with Nu Skin, and you've heard so many people talk about their lives being different, their lives being changed through this business. And certainly that's been the case with our family. And everybody in this room, especially all these leaders, have changed our lives to be part of your life, to be doing this business with you so many years, to be able to build the business around the world, to have experiences that we couldn't have had any other way possible to do what we've done other than to be involved in Nu Skin and to be involved in this global opportunity. I've really enjoyed all the panels, all the new leaders that are coming up through the plan, that are qualifying. You literally have no idea what your future can be in this company. So this is my last summit for a while here in North America. I have a few more summits to do in Asia and Europe before I officially retire early next year. But this has been one of the loves of my life for sure, to be involved in Nu Skin, to be part of this with all of you. And it's been an incredible experience to travel the world and to have my family have the experiences of being part of this company, to go to so many Team Elite trips around the world, had them over to Africa as well, gone to Malawi, gone to literally every continent except Antarctica with our family, with our children in the business. So it's been an amazing thing, and that all started back in 1989. June of 1989, I received a phone call from my brother-in-law, Craig Tillotson, and of course I knew he was involved in Nu Skin. I didn't want to hear about it. That was their thing. Myself and Scott Tillotson were doing our real estate business together. We had a small brokerage in Sandy, Utah, just up the road here. And it was the mid-1980s. We were doing fine, making more than $100,000 a year, which was real money back in those days. And things were fine. I was not looking for an opportunity. And I remember that it's around the 1st of June. I was home late from the office. I was tired, exhausted, just wanted to have dinner, didn't want to be bothered with anything else. And then the telephone rang. And it was him. It was Craig on the other end of the phone. And he started telling me all about Nu Skin and about how this was the time. If we were going to join, now's the time. This business is going to really grow, and so on and so forth. And I was just not having it. I was not hearing it. And I just remember at one point I cut him off. I broke into this stream of his speaking, and I simply just said, Craig, thanks for the phone call. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I am not going to do Nu Skin, period, you know? And the phone goes quiet for a few seconds, and then he just comes back really strong. And that's what I needed, frankly. And he said, what is your problem? And I thought to myself, great, he wants to know my problem. I think I'll tell him. And that's when I said, you know, I've been watching you guys do this. I said, you've been doing this all these years. You're 3-4 years ahead of me. You're already making $20,000, $30,000 a month, whatever you're making. I don't know what it is, but you're doing fine. And I said, you know, my problem is that you are so far ahead of me in this business, and I am so competitive that I will always see you as, you know, that far ahead of me. And if I join today, all I'm going to do is just push you higher, and that's going to drive me crazy for the rest of my life. And that's my problem. And I was totally serious, right? And the phone goes quiet again, and then he replies and he says, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. He said, why should you care about the money I'm already making? I didn't see you here doing Nu Skin with me. You chose real estate. I chose Nu Skin. Maybe you made the wrong choice. And he said, I'm going to move forward in this company, and I will make $100,000 a month whether you do it or not. Now that was the takeaway phrase. That was him telling me that he didn't really need me to be there to do this business to help him be successful. He was going to do it with or without me. And that takeaway is a really important thing that all of you need to learn in the recruiting process. And when he said, I'm going to make $100,000 a month, that was like a stake in my heart, you know? it was like I just had this thought flash in my brain that if he actually does that, if he actually proceeds and he actually makes that kind of money, and I'm stuck back here doing this real estate thing, it's good, but it's not that good. I'll probably jump off a bridge. That was the thought that was going through my mind. I'm that competitive. And so that's when I started to listen. He brought out a simple analogy. He said, Nathan, he goes, let me tell you your real problem. Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me. He said, your real problem is you're in the wrong vehicle. He said, it's like you're pedaling this bicycle. He said, me, I'm driving a Ferrari. And it doesn't matter how fast you pedal the bicycle, you will never catch me in my Ferrari. In other words, it's about the vehicle. And that's the difference, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you have simply never been in the right vehicle ever in your life. You've stumbled through with this job and that job and this opportunity and this dumb little business or whatever it might be. You've never inserted yourself into the right vehicle that would allow you to actually really accelerate your income, really accelerate your lifestyle. And it's no fun playing defense forever. I've listened to some of the people that try to help you learn how to manage your money and all that stuff, and everything's about never spending anything and saving everything, and maybe when you're 60, you'll have enough to retire and live the last 20 years of your life, I never found that very appealing. I didn't want to save everything forever and never take any trips and never have any fun and just save and invest and don't make any mistakes. I figured out I need a huge offense because playing defense isn't that fun. I want to play offense. And so I learned then, this is the vehicle that can make that happen. I listened to so many of you on stage in these panels over the last, yesterday and today, and listen to your stories, listen to your businesses, the couple with the restaurant, people that have a different kind of business or work in the pharmacy, or I've listened to your stories the last day and a half. And I think that you're starting to understand, a job is a job is a job. It'll just pay the bills. It'll never take you anywhere really in your life. It'll take you anywhere financially that'll make a difference. And that's the goal that we have right here, guys. You have the gold, whether you know it or not. You've got the opportunity. One of the rarest things in the world today is true opportunity. There's a lot of things that masquerade as a true opportunity, but they don't really ever, materialize the way that you think they should or that you expect they should. And what you are looking at right here is the opportunity literally of a lifetime. But you got to understand it. You got to see what it is. You got to seize it. You can't just play with it. You got to be committed to it. You got to decide what's going to happen. You need to have a very clear, definition in your mind of what your objective is with this opportunity, because this vehicle of Nu Skin, we say vehicle. What does a vehicle do? It takes you from where you are now to a place where you want to be. That's what a vehicle does. It can transport you to a different place, a different life, a different lifestyle, right? And that's what the Nu Skin vehicle has the ability to do for you, for any of you. It's done it for me and for my family, and it can do it for you as well. It can do it for anybody who decides they want to do it. Dan McCormick asked me a couple of days ago, he said, give me a few examples of your heroes in Nu Skin, people that just wouldn't quit. For whatever reason, they just wouldn't give up, and they just kept putting one foot in front of the other until they figured out how to do it. They figured out the words to say. They figured out the posture that they needed to have when they were recruiting and talking to people. They learned how to have that confidence, the ability to take it away from somebody and to say, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe it's not your business. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm moving ahead anyway. Just having that kind of confidence so that you can literally get the attention, get people thinking straight about the business, and then move forward with your plan. When people see that you're committed and they see that you're that confident about where you're going and what you're doing, they don't want to be left behind. When my brother-in-law said, I'm going to make $100,000 a month whether you do it or not, did I want to be left behind? I didn't know of any other way I was going to make $100,000 a month. Anyway, AT&T wasn't going to pay me $100,000 a month, right? No job is going to do that. You got to go create your own thing. You've got to go create your own business. And this opportunity, the way it is structured, the way it allows us to leverage ourselves, to create more than we can get paid on our own, right? That's the point of it. You know, you cannot exchange time for money your whole life. And everybody does it. Whether it's a job and you get paid, you know, salary for a whole year, whether it's by the hour and you get paid a payment for the hours you put in, whether it's by the job and you get paid when the job is done, like a contractor or something like that. Everybody is trading time for money. And that's a problem. That'll never work. You can never, ever create financial security and time freedom for you and your family by trading time for money. It won't ever happen. You don't have enough hours in your day to exchange for money and make the exchange enough times for you to ever get free. It can't happen. It's impossible. And so what you have to do is smash that equation out of your life. You've got to destroy that equation out of your life. The longer you sit and trade time for money and spend year after year doing it, you're literally wasting your life, because it's never going to lead to a different outcome. It's always just exchanging time for money. And nobody's going to pay you, you know, some extraordinary amount of money just because you're going to show up and exchange it. It's not going to happen. They can go get other people to do it if you demand too much. Okay, there's a marketplace out there. They don't have to pay what the marketplace demands. You want to earn way more than the marketplace. And for you to do that, you've got to find a different vehicle. So just recognize that it's utter futility to go back and forth to work and home, back and forth. Yeah, it pays bills, but that's all it's going to do. That's all it'll ever do. Okay, and if you are a doctor, dentist, consultant, CPA, veterinarian, whatever you are, and you've got the extra initials behind your name, congratulations. You went to more school than the rest of us. But what the effect of that is you've educated yourself into zero leverage. That's what happened. You made it all about you. All those degrees are in your head. All that knowledge is in your head. You've got to be there. You've got to show up and do the procedures and drill and fill the teeth and see the patients and bill the clients, right? And that's fine. And you might make a little bit more money than the average person, but you're never going to knock it out of the park because it's tied to you exchanging time for your services. Okay, and I don't care if you're billing $500 an hour, you still can never enjoy financial security and time freedom. You can't do it the way that we do it in this vehicle called Nu Skin. And so the key here is that you recognize that. You understand that. And as soon as that sinks in, as soon as you capture that, then it's going to be like, I forget who said it yesterday. I think it was somebody on the stage. Was it you, Jeff? I can't remember. That once Nu Skin, once that thought gets into you, maybe it was John. Was it John that said it? Once that thought gets into you, it'll never leave you. Once it gets embedded in your heart, it'll never leave you. You'll sit and think about it. And the more you go back to that job every day, and you sit in the cube, or you do what you do, and you trade that time for money, and you get that measly paycheck every 2 weeks, it's just going to tick you off, you know? It's like, I hate this. You know, look at this thing. This is not enough. I'm worth more than this, you know? I've got to figure out how to leverage myself and leverage my time. And that's what this business allows us to do. This is a vehicle that allows you to leverage your time, to get paid on more than you can do yourself. If you remain the focal point of your income generation, if it's all about you and it's always just focused on you all the time, and you got to show up all the time, it'll never happen. It can't happen. It's impossible. So you got to find a way to break that equation. And that's what Nu Skin does. That's what this compensation plan does, and these products. And where else can you go out, and where else can you find a company that's willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in products and technologies and ingredients and patents, and then they just say to all of us, okay, we're depending on you guys to sell it all. Okay, we're making all these investments now. You guys go out and create the networks of consumption. Networks of consumers, networks of distributors that will distribute the product, consume it themselves, and the totality of that network creates billions of dollars of consumption. I can promise you one thing for sure. This company is going to continue to grow. And somebody is going to end up with that new volume in their team. That's going to happen to somebody. It might as well be you. Because if it's not you, I promise you, it'll be somebody else, okay? And so it's just you deciding how much you want to have. It's not a scarcity thing. There's plenty for everybody, and it's deciding what piece of the pie do you want for you and your family. So today, I'm just going to back up to my family because I've had so many questions come in, messages and text and emails, and people wondering about, you know, what happened last week. I did a Facebook Live a week ago today where I'd come off the mountain from the ranch and the whole place was on fire. And some of you probably saw that. This is a property that I bought in 1993, right after we had opened Japan. And, you know, my first check from Japan came in after working about 18 months prior to the opening. I thought that would be a really big market. It was bigger than we thought. And the first check I got was $250,000 that month from that opening. So it was like, okay, time to go ranch shopping. And so, you know, the checks started coming, it continued to grow, and I just decided, okay, I'm going to go find this ranch that I wrote down in a gold book when I was 14 years old, that I wanted to have a ranch someday. And so I went out on this journey, and it took a long time, but I found this particular place. And so I'm going to give you a little update on that. First, the most important update is the newest addition of our family. This is Eli Nathan Reeves, who arrived last week on the 3rd. There's Mama and Daddy. Yeah. It's a crazy thing when your youngest baby is having babies. How does that work? So anyway, our youngest daughter, Leslie, husband Ryan, just had this little boy. So second child for them, and a number 11 grandchild for us, and exciting times. On to the ranch. So I don't know if you guys have any audio with that. Maybe, if not. So I'll just give you the story. Can you guys play that one again? I don't know if you have any audio for that thing or not. So anyway, you might have heard there's a fire called the Dollar Ridge Fire. And it's been the most destructive fire in the history of Utah. It's burned over 100 homes, 50 barns, all kinds of structures and trailers. People have lost livestock. It's out in this area where we have our ranch. There's a lot of ranchers, just salt of the earth people, you know, just out there making a living off the land and working their cattle and so forth. And so it's been a tough thing. It's been a big hit for the Uinta Basin in Utah. And everybody's scrambling to try to recover from the damage and destruction that's occurred. So we were there on the 4th of July, and we had one of our grandchildren with us, and all of a sudden we could see these flames. This fire was growing 10,000 acres a day. Just hot, dry conditions, you know, like a blowtorch, the wind is moving this fire. And there's a highway that runs between our ranch in Denver, Colorado, called Highway 40. Everything was on the south side of Highway 40, and that's where this video is. I don't know if you guys can play that video or not. Yes or no? A no's okay. Anyway, you can see in this picture, if I'll put it back up on the screen, there we go. You can see I'm on the four-wheeler right behind, and I just decided I'd pull my phone out. That's our ranch manager, Ryan Jones, and he's got a calf straddled over his legs, and he's driving this four-wheeler with one hand and holding the calf with the other hand. And this is where you got to get your animals out of here because the fire is literally sweeping through. So everybody's gathering up animals. We started looking for our animals, and there's this mother who's got her baby, brand new little calf, down in the willows by the river. She's trying to seek, you know, safety, but she can't get out of there because the calf is too young to move too fast. And so we found this calf, and he just grabs this calf and throws it on this four-wheeler and hightails it out of there. And that's a rancher for you right there. That's a real guy. These people love their animals, you know. This is their life, right? And they take care of them. So anyway, that's one thing that happened. I drove back in that night, and that's the picture I saw. They shut down the highway because the fire jumped the highway. They had 200 firemen lined up on the highway with like water guns and, you know, pump trucks and everything to spray. They're spraying like crazy. And this flame just goes flying right over and lands on the other side and starts burning the other side of the highway. So it was racing right at us, right up the canyon coming towards our property. And I forgot how many people had been there over these last 25 years that have actually been at the ranch. How many of you have been to the ranch ever before? Okay, yeah, there's a few right here on the front row and a few other people. So there's been thousands of people there apparently over these last 25 years. And we've tried to do the best we could to share it with people, right? That's the only reason we're blessed with things, so we can share them with other people, right? And so we're doing this. We've had so many Boy Scout camps and youth conferences and, like, you know, just tons of stuff. Family reunions, people want to, you know, have weddings up there. I mean, it's just been all these kinds of things over all these years. And it was amazing in the last week when I did that broadcast a week ago, and it was on social media, how many people just said, what can we do? And there's nothing you could do. They wouldn't let anybody even go in there. I had to like drive through the back roads at midnight, and that was my picture driving down the canyon, and I thought, wow, we're already on fire. You know, this is not good. And so we got down there, we worked all night. We got a road grader out that we have. We plowed a 60-foot wide trench. We got in the river with our track hole and diverted half the river and flooded it down the whole side of this thing to make everything flat. Redirected all this stuff, you know. Emptied the house, emptied the propane, old paint bottles, ammunition, anything that could explode, right? And so we're just working like crazy people. The next day we go up, take a day and a half. We gather 190 cows. We get them out of the mountains because we're afraid the fire's going to cut them off. You know, the way it was jumping ahead a mile at a time with the wind and burn these cows. So we get all the cows down after a day and a half. We literally didn't sleep this whole time. You know, we're just going, trying to beat this fire. And then this is what it looked like the next day. It started coming right down. And so the fire came up right 2 miles from our property. It died down that night. They built 2 fire lines with big dozers. The next morning it starts blowing again, it jumps the first fire line, and then the wind shifts. And I have to tell you, I totally believe it was the prayers that everybody offered to save that place, because that wind just it came within 2 miles, and it just turned and paralleled the whole property line, and then it just burned itself out, and that night a rain shower came and just put it out. Unbelievable, you know, so thank God for answers to prayers. And it was, you know, that's what we've been doing the last week, getting prepared for something, right? But it's safe now and ready for more people to use. All right, so let's talk about Velocity. Leaf and his team did a great job just a moment ago. And what I usually like to do is I like to use the audience to try to help explain the compensation plan. You guys know the basics of the plan, right? We now today, unlike, you know, the first 25 years that I was in Nu Skin, first 20 years, we really didn't have a big retail component. You know, the business is largely focused on sponsoring over all these years, building executives, building leaders, and building Blue Diamond teams and so forth. And we really didn't have a way for people to make significant money right now, first day, right when they started. And that's a significant addition to the Nu Skin opportunity that has been created really in the last 3 to 4 years. And it started off with Emma and all her groups over in the UK doing toothpaste, and everybody started figuring out, hey, we might have a couple of products we can actually make money with at retail. And so all of a sudden that has started to change. And I think that's what the UK has brought to us is like, hey, there's another way that we can start people in this business. And it's proven to be, you know, super powerful, super potent. We've just heard so many leaders on stage, so many people sitting on these stools up here that have come into the business in the last year or 2 years with that particular opportunity in mind to begin with. And then taking a second step after we do that and transitioning people to the bigger picture of Nu Skin, okay? You know, what I just said in the first 10 minutes of this presentation about not trading time for money is a deeper conversation. That's different than just starting off and saying it's free to join and you can make $10 a tube and let's go to work, right? Once people do that and they're exposed to the business, we expose them, we involve them, and now we upgrade them. We show them what the business really can be, because you can make this business as big as you want it to be. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can fund whatever you want it to fund, okay? It can change your lifestyle in amazingly dramatic ways, okay? So let's jump in. I want to talk a little bit more about, you know, the recruiting part, sharing, building, and leading, and how that's going to look different. You know, Nu Skin has had the most lucrative compensation plan in the entire network marketing industry for a long time. In fact, the management's goal is to pay their sales leaders more money in commissions than any other company in the industry. Is that a great goal to be part of? How does it make you feel to know that what they think about across the street all day long is how do we pay our sales leaders more money than any other company? I mean, does that happen when you work at, Kmart or Walmart or AT&T or, one of these places? Do you think that management sits there all day long and what they think about is, how do we pay our employees more money than any employees in our competitors? I don't think they sit and think about that. But that's what these guys think about. How do we do that? How do we enhance the opportunity? Anytime you change a compensation plan, it's stressful. It really is, especially for those of us that have made, tens of millions of dollars from this company. And we've already got a plan in place. It's paying big checks every month. We know it works. Hey, why don't you guys not screw with that, Let's just let it keep doing what it does, because it's done better than any other plan ever anyway, right? And yet, they've said, no, we think we can make it better. What do they do to make it better? Nu Skin obviously has all the data. They obviously have all the history of all the bonus checks. They've got all the structures of all the organizations in this company sitting in their computers over there. They can run endless analysis on different organizations, different groups, different structures of the way people have built their teams, and they can look at the average checks, the growth of the checks, the sustainability of those checks, and so forth, right? They've done all that, and they've continued to analyze this for many years before they proposed what they would call velocity. So some of these things were needful just because technology changes, times change. Nu Skin was a monthly paid plan, period, for years and years and years. You got to check 15 days after the end of the month, and that's when your check arrived, and that was it. Those are always great days, We would, in the old days, we would tear open the FedEx envelope. When your check went over $5,000, they would FedEx it to you. And I remember tearing open those envelopes every time. And I'd get paid more in a month than my father made in a year working for the government, And it was just like, this is like unbelievable. I remember they just kept going up. After a couple of years, I was jaded to it. I thought, okay, fine, here comes another one. How is that? Why is that we lose gratitude or something or whatever? We just expect it after a while, And it's now gone on for almost 30 years, 29 years, where I've not made less than 6 figures a month in 29 years, so I'm a little jaded to it. It's just like I just expect it to keep coming in, right? And that is the possibility for you. That can happen to you, okay? What you're going to have to do, if you want that to happen for you, is you got to understand where the money is. You have to understand where the money comes from. And if you don't understand where the money comes from, you're not going to be able to get the money, okay? Now, you can make great money paying for piano lessons and swim lessons, and you can pay a mortgage payment. You can buy your groceries by posting and selling and doing social only, okay? But you will never make $100,000 a month by just doing that. You're going to have to learn where the money is and how to create leaders in this business. Remember what I said earlier? You can't do it all yourself. If you're the focal point of your income generation and it's all you, then it's never going to happen. You're never going to experience time freedom. Okay, you might make some money. Attorneys that bill at $500 an hour, they make some pretty good money, right? They can become a partner in the firm. They might make some really good money every year. But they got to keep showing up every year. And as soon as they stop, the second they stop, it's over. Some people say, well, I see these CEOs that make 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 million a year. They're great CEOs, but guess what? They're just a head rat. That's all they are. They just won the rat race. They got to the top rat spot, and they're the head rat, but they work for the board of directors. And if they screw up, the board of directors will replace them. They have nothing recurring. The second they let go or they retire, it's over. Now, I'm going to retire next year, and I've been 30 years in Nu Skin. And when I retire, is it over for me? Does my income just stop or something? No. I've been able to build a team of people that are so much better than I am at doing this business, and they're building this business for themselves and their family. They're not doing it for me. Okay, they're doing it for themselves and their family. They're self-motivated. That's human nature. People are going to act in their own self-best interest. That's human nature, okay? So they're motivated for themselves. And that's why this business that we've been able to build, my wife and I, is going to continue to grow. That's why we can retire securely knowing that we're going to continue to receive those checks month after month. Okay, they're going to go on for the rest of our lifetime, and we're going to be able to will that business to our kids if they deserve it. Otherwise, we'll go someplace else. So, that's what's going to happen. I can't think of any more secure retirement program. I can't think of any more secure future than having, you know, a residual stream of money that comes because you build a network of consumption of distributors and customers that are using that product every day. You know, that's what happens. That's what happens every day in this business. So somebody's going to do it if you don't. Somebody's going to continue to capture the growth that will happen in this business, right? That's how it's going to work. And so that's what you want to be paying attention to. You want to understand, you know, what's ahead of you and how to do it here and how to leverage yourself. How do you do that, okay? I'm going to tell you how I did it. And it's called driving lines, okay? So before we get to that, I mean, just think about a couple of the changes. They highlighted a couple of these a minute ago. So this building bonus that now does not get paid monthly anymore, it gets paid weekly now, can be really significant. In fact, I have a person in my downline that did $25,000 in the 4th week of June. Okay, $25,000 in group volume in the 4th week of June. So what would that bonus check have been for that person? Just the 4th week check, about $9,000. Just for the 4th week. That wasn't the 3rd week, the 2nd week, or the 1st week of checks that came from the building bonus of Nu Skin. Okay? So that's the kind of stories that we're going to start to hear. That was the first month that we had Velocity. The first month, okay? So we're going to start to see behavior change. We're going to start to see people do more earlier in the month that'll result in them getting into the higher commission levels in the 3rd and 4th weeks of the month. And that will happen because it's human nature. People act in their own self-best interest, and they're going to take action earlier instead of like before. It really didn't have to be done until the last day of the month. Well, now you kind of have 4 last days of the month, 4 weeks in there, and there's a weekly bonus. And so we're going to start to see some changes there. And you can see, as you get into these higher volume blocks, the significant difference in pay. There's a couple of places where Velocity is significantly different, okay? So number 1 is in the building bonus. This is where it can be significantly different than the previous plan. And then the second area that is really significant is going to be in the leadership bonuses. Okay, that's the old plan right here. So this was paid monthly, 3 parts to the plan, you know, the front, the middle, and the back end of the plan. Okay? This is what we lived with forever. This is what has made Nu Skin pay more money to more distributors, more leaders than any other company in the network marketing industry. So there's nothing broken about this. This performed unbelievably well. And, you know, all of us have been cautious to make sure that if any change was going to be made, it would be actually better. And so that's what's happening here. This is the new plan. So this looks similar, right? Distributor, executive, and leadership. There's kind of 3 parts there. The first part really is retailing and sharing. That's the first part of what you see right there, retail profit and sharing bonus, right? For you to move from this distributor front end of the plan to the middle, you have to submit a letter of intent. Okay, the letter of intent is your ticket to leadership. Those of you that are here today that have not yet submitted your letter of intent, July is your month. Okay, why wait? Somebody said that on stage yesterday, like, what are you waiting for? You know, there's no reason why it's actually, I think we're saying that, right? It's like, what are you waiting for? You know, you just want to trade more time for money, you want to waste more years of your life, grinding it out, beating your brains out, going nowhere, or do you want to actually move the needle? You want to actually step into the vehicle that can actually take you someplace. And that's what we have the opportunity to do here. The building portion of the plan, we spoke about that. The commissions are significantly higher once you surpass 3,000 points a month in volume. And so people will start to look at this differently. They'll start to do more earlier in the month, the first week, the second week, the third week. And by the 4th week, they're going to be getting 15, 20, 25, 30% commissions on those later building blocks in the last week of the month. This is going to make a big change for people. It's going to motivate more people to say, I need to get my LOI done. I need to get to executive so I can start capturing this weekly pay. Okay? So that's it. The LOI process. It doesn't have to happen in 90 days now. It can happen in up to 6 months. You can take 180 days and do a slower track to qualify. Some people like that. They feel like there's not as much pressure. You're going to probably see greater numbers of people complete executive status after filing the LOI because there's not a steep a slope. There's a slower track they can go on if they need to.
okay? Some of you will say, I don't need it. You know, I'm going to do it all in 1 month anyway. And you'll go out and you'll accomplish executive status in a month, and people will continue to do that as well. So there's more flexibility in the way people qualify, and I think that'll be accretive to the volume over time as well. And then we get to the leadership portion of the plan, the lead on the back end. And as Leith mentioned a moment ago, we can now take our time and energy and we can focus that time and energy where it's most productive. And this is probably one of the biggest changes. You know, Nu Skin made the hurdle pretty high for you to be a Blue Diamond. You had to go out there and create 12 frontline executives. And, you know, that sounds easy, as another person said yesterday. 12, how hard can that be, right? It's harder than you think. And then particularly when you have to maintain those people. And over time, you'd have to replace some of those people. And you would spend your time monitoring weaker legs instead of focusing on building stronger legs that were running, because that was a requirement of the plan. So Nu Skin, in their wisdom, after all this analysis, years of looking at the database, years of tracking different organizations, and looking at the ones that are most stable, that make the most money, they decided to make some of these changes. And these changes are powerful. They're really positive changes. So today, what you'll start to do immediately now is you'll start to create a leadership team. And the way you do that is you do that by driving a line. Okay, so what does that mean to drive a line? I'm just going to actually kind of step down here into the audience and show you what that means. Okay, so if I'm driving a line and I'm recruiting somebody, the first person I recruit is Rick. Okay, so let's say I know Rick, stand up, yep, and I contact Rick. I tell him I'm doing this business no matter what. Totally excited about it. This is my future. You know, you can keep doing what you're doing if you want, but I think you can be one of my generals. I think you want to be part of my business. I think you want to be part of my team. You know, when can we sit down and I can show you this business? So I would recruit Rick. And my first job now is not to leave Rick alone and go over here and say, well, I'm going to recruit this other friend. Okay? My first job whenever I sponsor somebody is to immediately work through them into the people that they know, into their circle of influence. Now today, you know, people do the business different ways, right? Rick can be online or he can be offline. He can be posting, he can be connecting with people online, and that's a powerful way to do the business, right? He can also be doing the business offline. And I believe at some point, either online or offline, before people really commit to what this business is and the effort it's going to take for them to be successful, then they have to have this connection. There's got to be a pretty significant level of trust between me and Rick for Rick to say, okay, I'm going to give you my time. Because for people to give you their money is nothing. You know what? It really is. Yeah, okay, it's fine. It's, you know, you got to get a cell, you got to get somebody to write a check, give you a credit card, give you cash, whatever. People will give you their money all day long before they'll give you their time. Time is the most valuable thing anybody has. Right? Once it's gone forever. You can lose money, you get it back, lose cars, get it back, lose homes, get it back. They can even burn down and you can rebuild it. Okay? But you can never get your time back. Once your time is gone, it's gone forever. So time is the most valuable thing anybody has. And so it's a really big ask, okay, to ask people to give you their time. And they're going to have to really trust you. And they got to believe that you're going to be there, right? You can't be a flake. You can't like sponsor people and then disappear for 3 weeks, okay? You can't sponsor people and say, I'm going to help you, and then you never answer your phone when they call you for a 3-way call. Or when they say, hey, I've got somebody to meet us in Starbucks, or I want to bring somebody to your house, okay? Or whatever it might be, right? They've got to have, you've got to be there. You've got to perform. And so I sponsor Rick. My first thing is, Rick knows 2,000 people. If he graduated from high school in North America, he knows 2,000 people. He knows more than that if he went to college, if he's had jobs, if he's worked different places. You may not think you know 2,000 people. You may think, no, that's not a chance. I promise you, you know at least that many people. People you would call, okay? So that's it. If you don't think so, I promise you I'll put a gun to your head and you would write down 2,000 names, okay? You know them all. They all come flying back into your memory, okay? So I'm just going to say to Greg, I don't have time to go through your 2,000 people, so I want you to think about your top 20. Who are the top 20 people? And I want you to put them in 4 categories, because everybody has these 4 networks in their life. Family, friends, business, and community contacts. Write it down, guys. FFBC. Family, Friends, Business, Community. FFBC. Okay? Those are the 4 networks everybody already has. And I say to Rick, who is your most aggressive family member? Who's the most successful one in your whole family that you can think of? Who's your most successful friend? One that's done better than anybody. What business do they own? Who are they? Let's think about talking to them. Who's the most successful business person that you're acquainted with? And who's the most successful person in your local community? And that can be your neighborhood, it can be, you know, your church you go to, your synagogue, whatever it is, okay? Whatever community that you're part of. And I want to know who the 5 most successful people are in every one of those 4 networks that you already have. And that's who we're going to talk to first. You know, and this is the part that's a little bit scary for Rick because he's never done it before. And so most of the time, I'll make the first calls with Rick to these people. And we just get them on the phone and we introduce them, and Rick will simply say something like, hey, you know, I am calling you because I've got something I want to talk about business. We get the niceties out of the way. And he says, you know, the reason for the call is business today. I've got something I've come across that I think is really cool, really exciting. I think there's a lot of possibilities here. Do you have a couple of minutes? Yes. Okay, great. I've got my friend on the phone, Nathan right here. He's been doing this business, and I'd like to have him share with you what we're doing. Would that be okay? Ask permission twice, yes or no. You know, they say, yeah, that's fine. Then all of a sudden, I've got permission to go ahead and show the opportunity of what we're doing with this prospect. And this is something that I did all the time, literally the day they joined. Right as soon as they are joined and enrolled in the business, then immediately I would start to talk to Rick's contacts, okay? And so we would start to do this. And literally in the first day or 2, we would sponsor 2, 3, 4, 5 people with Rick. We would sign them up in the business, and we would start to get product order, and we would start to focus on Rick getting a letter of intent in place. Okay? That's how I did my business, guys. I did my business like that for the first 20 years, basically. Okay? Personal contact. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have the internet at that time. That's how I did the business. Okay, now, you guys can add the whole online environment to it today, right? But as soon as I start to sift, and my job is to sift through Rick's contacts. My job is not to worry so much about Rick. My job is to work through Rick to his contacts to help him build his business. And in the process of me doing this, and Rick listening to me on 3-way calls, you can do it on Fuse, you can do it on Skype, you can do it on Blue Jeans today, do it anywhere in the world like this today because of the technology we have, then Rick would listen. And the repetitive nature of me speaking, presenting, and answering questions that people would have, overcoming the objections people have. There's only 4 or 5 objections, right? No time, no money, I hate sales, I don't like network marketing, you know, that's about it. And once you got answers for those, you got a wire. Any other things people would say that would stump you. Okay? And so it's really simple once you've got the answers to those questions. Yeah, I understand how you feel. I had the same concerns. Here's what I found out as I dove in, right? It's not like that at all. This is what it is. Here's how it works, right? I don't have any time. Yeah, I understand you don't have any time. That's the way it's always going to be unless you change something, right? Is anything going to change unless you change something? When are you going to get time? You know, that's why we're talking. So you can have a vehicle that disconnects you from having to put in the time all the time. Okay? It can give you a life someday. I don't have any money. That's okay. It doesn't cost anything. You can join for free. Let's post it. You won't make money. Okay? All those questions. I hate network marketing. Yeah, so did I. I understand exactly how you feel. Most of them are a joke. They're worse than a joke. Okay? Half of them are criminal. So, you know, don't worry about it. This is not one of them. Okay? This is a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. Been in business now for 35 years. You know, if it was illegal, I think somebody would have found out by now. Or you can joke with them and you can just say that they go, look, those things are illegal, right? You go, shh, they don't tell anybody, okay? But we're going to make so much money that when we get out of prison, it won't even matter. Half the people are like, really? Can we do it like that? No, I'm just joking. It's not illegal. You're not going to go to prison. So anyway, you got to learn to have fun with people. And you got to sometimes just joke with them and screw with them a little bit. And then, you know, you'll have fun as you actually have the business move forward. So my job is to sift through Rick's people. I want to look at the top 20. If you can get somebody to have enough confidence in you that they'll put you in front of their 20 best people, then you've done something great, right? That's a harder thing than you think. People sometimes get reluctant to open up their circle of influence to you. Okay? What do you do in that case? What do you do? I hear people all the time say, well, I have a hard time getting my people to introduce me to their people. So what do I do to move to the next level and start to build these teams, right? It is critical that you introduce Rick to your sponsor, to their sponsor, to their sponsor. There are 6 leaders above you that make 5% on what you do. You need to know who each one of those people are. You need to know their professional background, where they came from, what they did before Nu Skin, what they love about it, what their success has been. You need to connect Rick to all these people. Because then Rick will think, okay, I've got 6 arrows in my quiver. I'm going to approach this person. He would match up great with that one. Or she'll match up great with that one's background. Okay? And then utilize your team. I mean, this is like one of the biggest mistakes people make. They don't utilize the upline leadership to connect them to people they're recruiting. People have to hear it from more than you. You know, you're not going to get it done all by yourself. They want to hear it validated from 2 or 3 or 4 people. That's what people need. Then they can start to believe it. They can start to understand it, right? People want something different, guys. One person told me that half the people you meet are in serious trouble, so just remember that. You know, they got problems in their life. Half the people have serious problems going on in their life that you meet. You can help them. You can help them solve problems. You can help them through this business solve a lot of problems. A lot of those problems are money-related problems. Okay? Confidence-related problems. So all of a sudden we have this ability now. So Rick, if he believes and he's got confidence in all these team members, and he realizes he's part of a team, that it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport here. Okay? It's a team sport. Then he realizes, wow, those are my resources. I'm not in this by myself. I'm in this as part of a team. I'm going to use the team. And the team's going to help move you forward. Okay? It's really helpful when the team gets rejected, and it's not just Rick getting rejected, right? Hey, that's not too bad. Pick yourself up. You're still breathing, right? Check your pulse. It's all good. Let's call the next one. Let's call the next person. And so we recruit. We find Pam. Pam, stand up. So Pam's the acquaintance of Rick. We find Pam. What's my job now? My job is to go right directly to Pam, because Rick's still brand new. Maybe we're a day into this business or 2. And all of a sudden we talk to Pam, and Pam gets it. She sees it, and Pam says, I want to do it. I understand it. I'm tired of my job. I want to make something different in my life. And so Pam decides she's going to do the business. Okay? And we say to Pam, Pam, show us your best 20 people. FFBC. You know? Let's find out who they are. And so Pam starts to introduce us to some of her people. And one of them is Sherry. Stand up, Sherry. And Sherry gets it. Sherry lights up. She sees this business is I'm going to do this business. Okay? What's my job? My job is to now work with Sherry and say, Sherry, show us your best 20 people. Okay? FFBC. And so Sherry all of a sudden introduces us. Okay? And holy smokes, she finds Julia. Okay? So here's Julia. And we find Julia on the 4th level down here. What's my job? Work with Julia. Okay? Julia started, get her introduced to the business, help her understand what to do, and start to communicate with her top 20 people. And we find Mark. Okay, here's Mark back here. Julia sponsors Mark. Mark's on my 5th level. And maybe I find my locker in Mark. Okay? So I'm sifting. I've gone through a potential universe of 2,000 people here, 2,000 here, so that's 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, potential universe of 10,000 total people. Everybody's had statistics classes and probabilities classes in college. Yeah. By the time you go through a big enough universe of people, the probabilities are that you're going to find some really good people. And my experience has been that I have found some of my very best leaders on levels 4, 5, and 6. Why? Because it's mathematics. Because I've gone through a large enough universe that I can find somebody really great. Okay? And then I find the locker. Debbie, stand up. Debbie, you're the locker. Okay? So I find Debbie, and Debbie has been waiting for this her whole life. Okay, Debbie has been building her Rolodex. You guys don't know what that is. She's been building her phone list. Okay? You know, she's got 20,000 names in her phone. Her phone's just spitting out names like crazy. Okay? And Debbie's ready for this, and Debbie sees it, and Debbie says, where have you been? I've been waiting for this my whole life. She's a connector. She's a networker. You guys ever read Malcolm Gladwell's books about who the connectors are? in life. There are certain people that they just love people enough and they're just connected to everybody. It seems like they know everybody. You know, they've got connections all over the place, right? So this is who these people are. And they've got credibility. They've not screwed all their contacts with, you know, other investments or other businesses that people are leery about listening to them. They've got credibility with their contacts. You know, they've got some experience. They've had some success in something else in life. But they've realized the limited nature of their success because of the limit of the vehicle they're participating in. And all of a sudden they see this vehicle of Nu Skin and realize there's nothing like this. Where have you been my whole life? I got to do this, right? So Debbie's the locker. And many times as I've built these power lines, we call them, this is what you do to drive a line. It's constant sifting. It's literally hundreds, maybe 1,000 phone calls. It's driving down the line and finding these people. Do I leave all these people alone forever? I mean, I may do all of this in 3 weeks. Maybe it's 2 weeks when I get down to my 6th level. If I can get 6 levels of distributors going, something good's going to come out of this lane. Somewhere in here, somebody's going to catch it, stick with it, and they're going to light up, and I'm going to be able to work with somebody in this lane. Okay? So my objective, because of the pressure points that are built into the Nu Skin compensation plan, was to always drive a line as deep as I could in the first month, get it as deep as I could get it, get an LOI out of somebody down on 4, 5, 6, or 3. Once I got an LOI, then everybody upstream was going to LOI. So whatever level I get the LOI, I can multiply the LOIs by the number of the level. Does that make sense? So if I find my LOI right here with Mark on level 5, then everybody else is going to be able to LOI. Okay? They're all going to count that same volume. They're all going to LOI in 1 month. Well, you might think, well, that's no big deal, but psychologically it's a big deal to people when they go, oh, I just LOI. That means like I'm on a leadership track. So maybe I need to take the next step, right? And not everybody survives. Some people drop out after they LOI, but some will continue. Because now they feel like a new level of confidence because they've got an LOI and they've got something happen. Remember what I said a moment ago, that people act in their own best self-interest, that's human nature? Yeah, remember that the fear of loss is a greater motivator than the prospect of gain. What does that mean? You might want to write that one down. The fear of loss is a greater motivator than the prospect of gain. What it means is I can stand here all day long talking to Rick and saying, you're going to be rich, man, you're going to be huge in this business, you know, like think about it, let's read some more self-help books, you know, let's do something, right? And never take any action. We can think about it all day long, okay? But I haven't helped him create anything that he's going to lose if he walks away. It's just the prospect of gain is not as big a motivator thinking about what we could accomplish here in our business than if he actually has this team underneath him. If Rick has 5 levels of people underneath him and he's got an LOI down there, and Rick thinks that he's not going to do this anymore, Rick is walking away from something. We don't know what he's walking away from yet. We don't know how big it'll be, but he is going to walk away from something. And the fear of loss, that thing could become something really big, can keep him motivated and keep him in the business. So the fear of loss is a greater motivator than the prospect of gain. You've got to understand a little bit about human psychology and the way you drive this line. Okay? So I'm sifting, hundreds of phone calls, and all of a sudden we find somebody who just gets it. They're lit up, they're on fire, the lights are on bright, everybody's home. It's all working good here, okay? So I now come all the way down and work with her every day. And we may spend 4 hours a day on calls or meeting with people. When I find that locker, I just camp out on that locker. I might spend a year. I could spend 1 year right here just working with this team. She's calling me every day. I don't even have to call her. She's saying, can you get on a three-way call? Can you meet this person? Can you do a Skype? Can you do this? It's nonstop. Okay? How do you know who you're supposed to work with in your downline? Do you work with the people that are dead bodies and you're dragging them and you're exhausted? You got them in a headlock and you're going to drag them across the goal line? You're going to score whether you want to or not. Right? No. You can't drag them. It's exhausting to drag dead people. Okay? It is. You ever done it? You grab somebody by the wrist and try to drag them. Rub all the hair off the back of their head while you're dragging them along the ground. Try to make them do it. You can't make people do the business. Okay? You can only work with motivated people. You can't motivate them. You got to find motivated people. Right? People that have a burning desire. People that want to do something else. Otherwise, you will wear yourself out dragging dead bodies. And the biggest mistake that most distributors business is they spend way too long trying to convince people they don't really want to do it, but they want to do the business. Okay? You can't do that, guys. You know, 94% of the people in this country work for somebody else. Maybe not because they want to, but maybe they don't have enough motivation or enough confidence to go out and try to do something on their own. 6% of the people have their own gig, their own business. 6% of the people control 60% of the wealth in this country. 6%. Okay? The other 94% split up the other 40% of the money. It is definitely concentrated in the hands of people that are motivated. So you've got to find motivated people and realize, I don't want to take the risk of opening a business, draining my IRA, you know, borrowing money, mortgaging my house, hoping this new little business is going to work, some dumb idea, some restaurant, something that's just going to never scale, never going to get any bigger than this one location, and you're going to invest your whole future, you're going to risk everything and grind it out every day for what? For whatever little that little place is going to generate? Stupidity. You know, when you have an option like this, where you could like leverage this thing and spread it all over the whole world and build a global business that isn't based in one place, no fire can burn it up, no flood can sweep it away, no earthquake can knock it down. It's in the cloud. It doesn't exist anywhere but in the cloud. People just consume all these products every day and checks show up that come from 50 countries. Your currencies aren't a risk to you. You don't depend on any one country's currency going down. Your whole business is built and now you're screwed for the rest of your life. You cannot find a better business than this anywhere. Any place. More safe, more diversified, more stable, more secure. Can't find it, guys. This is the best thing you will ever see. It's worth the pain you're going to have to go through. The recruiting, the rejection, the no's. Just get those no's and get them out of the way. Right? Every morning, get the first no as soon as you can. Right? It's like jumping in a pool of absolute ice cold swimming pool of water. You jump in, you can barely breathe because it's so cold. And if you just suck it up for a few minutes and stay in there, you start 5 minutes later, like, oh, this actually feels pretty good in here. That's the way it is when you recruit every day. You jump in, got the first no. And after that, it's easy. It just rolls off your back like water off a duck's back. Give me a no, it's fine, I don't care. I'm going to go find the yeses. That's our life. That's our business, guys. It's fun. You're sitting there going, fun? This guy's sadistic. What's wrong with this guy? Yeah, it is fun. When you're in the hunt and you're full on and you've got all that energy rolling forward every day and you cannot be denied, it's like you are so lethal that it's just so fun. You get so good at recruiting that you know what they're going to say before they say it. You can hear the objection coming. You are so prepared for them, you're like, come on, just give me that objection. I'm going to rip your head off right now. You won't even believe what I'm going to tell you next. Give it to me, come on. That's how you feel, right? It is so fun. I love twisting people's heads off. I love it. It's the funnest thing I've ever done. Just turn their head all the way around, you know, just make them think completely different. So, that's the process. Okay, this whole row, stand up right here. Just this row. Okay, not you guys. Just this row right here, okay? Just this row. If I spend a year down here, the goal's Blue Diamond, okay? She only needs 6 people now. We used to have to get 12. But I would create a Blue Diamond team. And then those people would create other executives. This row, stand up. This row, stand up. This row, stand up, okay? All of a sudden now we've got, 100 executives, 200 executives. If we have 200 executives down line from Debbie, and they're all doing $3,000 a month, that's $600,000 a month in volume. What's 5% of $600,000? $30,000 a month, okay? What do you think Mark's thinking? Mark. Yeah, Mark's doing a good job, but I'm not getting any money. Because Mark's title is what?
Gold.
He's a gold executive. He has one first level breakaway called debit. So that makes him a gold. How deep do golds get paid in our compensation plan? One generation, so he gets paid on Debbie. Let's say Debbie's doing $3,000. So he gets 5%, he gets $150. Good job, Mark. $150 and you got $600,000 in volume in your downline. Now either Mark is going to snap out of it and wake up and get motivated and try to go capture as much as he can of that volume that already exists. Okay? Or he's going to like roll over. And he's going to roll over and he's done. Stick the fork in and it's over. Okay? And all this stuff rolls up. one generation. Does that hurt me? No. If all these people between Rick and Debbie want to quit, none of them can suck it up and go out and build their team, that's just fine. Debbie's going to roll up to my first generation, and all this volume is going to roll right into my pay line. Today, it's all on my 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th levels. I don't get paid anything on this volume in this configuration, okay? Unless some of these people quit. Do these people quit? Is there a fear of loss now? They know their life's already banked. Their financial life is over. It's solved forever. They'll make money for the rest of their days. They don't have to worry about retirement. They don't have to worry about any bills. They won't have any credit card debt. They'll pay off the mortgage. They won't have any problems financially ever again, thanks to what Debbie's built in. They just have to suck it up and start taking a few steps. Okay? So what does Mark need to do? Get one more executive. He recruits one more person he knows. She becomes an executive. Now he's what? A lapis. So what a lapis to get paid? How deep? 2 generations. So he gets paid on 3,000 and 3,000. That's $150 each. So he gets $300 there. And now he gets to tap into, there's probably 20 people here. That's 3,000. That's 60,000 points. He gets 5%. He gets another 3,000. So now he gets $3,300 instead of $150 because he got one more executive. You see that? That's like 12 times pay increase, 20 times pay increase, right? And so Mark then needs to just get 2 more. Okay? 2 more. And now he becomes a ruby, right? Yeah. And as a ruby, Mark has the ability to get paid 3 generations, right? So now maybe he taps into another 150,000 in volume, 100,000, okay? He can pick up another 5,000 by just, getting 2 more executives. Can you see how he's motivated to keep going and become a blue diamond? Can you see how Julia is motivated to go out and become a blue diamond? She can reach as deep as possible into this dynasty that's already existing down here. And the same thing here for Sherry. She can get as deep as she can get, and she's going to tap into all these other people. That's the power of this compensation plan. It's called width equals depth of pay. And this is how you really create real volumes, real lifestyle, real income that can set you up for your whole life. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Okay, everybody can sit down. Thank you very much. Give a hand. Thank you for doing that. So, before I go back on stage, so the difference today is instead of needing 12 people in your front line, you now need 6 people, right? So let's play the game like this just a little bit. So stand up, okay? So she's going to be an executive. Joe, stand up, Joe. Joe's going to be an executive. What's your name? Yeah, stop. Get in the game, dude. You got your earphones on. Daniel? Nathaniel. Good. You got a good name. They call you Nathan? They call you Nate? No? Okay, well, you want to change that. Okay, so I'm just going to say that these 3 are executives and they're at 3,000 points or more. They're motivated. They get paid every week. They can work, first, second, third, the 4th week. They can get way more money than you could ever used to get out of this compensation plan, and they can do that now. And so then I come down here, and I'm going to sponsor Gideon. That's right. So Gideon becomes an executive. Gideon's serious about this deal, okay? So Gideon goes out. He sponsors, you guys stand up, okay? So it gets these 2, and then back on that next row, let's have 4 of you guys stand up, okay? And then maybe on the next row, another 4 of you guys stand up, okay? So this is Gideon. So my job is to help Gideon drive his line, and I'm going to create a 10,000-point leadership team, right? So I've got 3 executives. This makes me a ruby. That's number 4. And I've got this leadership team, 1, 2, 3, 4 generations. I'm going to get paid 3 generations deep on this leadership team, plus get paid on my other 3 executives, right? So now I'm a ruby, but I'm going to be an emerald when I get 1 more executive in the new plan, okay? So now I'm going to come down here. Okay, I'm going to have Lee stand up, responsible Lee. Okay, stand up. Okay, you guys, you 3 stand up. Okay, you 4 stand up. 5 more stand up, okay? And then right here, you guys stand up. Let's have like 8 of you guys stand up, okay? So now I sponsor Lee, and we drive this line with Lee, and what we do is we end up creating another leadership team, and this one's more than 20,000 points, okay? So Gideon's team is 10,000 plus, Lee's team is 20,000 plus, Okay, and then I come over here and I'm going to sponsor this gentleman. What's your name? Phil? Okay, Nathan, good to meet you. Okay, you're going to be my big leadership team, okay? So 4 of you guys stand up. Okay, this row stand up, that row, that row, that row, okay? And so now we've got a 30,000 point leadership team over here, okay? What does that make me? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with 3 leadership teams of 10, 20, and 30,000 points. Makes me a blue diamond, right? How many people have become blue diamonds under Velocity? Okay, anybody who's become a blue diamond via Velocity? Julie has done it, right? Anybody else in the room who's done it? Got a couple? Okay, Ashley's over here, blue diamond, and has created a bunch of blue diamonds in Velocity, right? All Velocity, okay? Okay, we've got Marco and Mariana down there, become blue diamonds in Velocity. Congratulations, okay? So this is significantly different. I don't want to say that it's easier, per se. I mean, yeah, you're dealing with 6, okay, instead of 12 people on your front line. So in that respect, it's easier. But what did I say earlier? What did Lee Bedman say earlier? He said we can concentrate our efforts where we get the best returns. Instead of going out there and working with all those other executives, we need to go drive lines. Where's the real money, guys? Where's the real money? Is there money on your front line? There's a little bit. Is there money on your 2nd generation? Some. 3rd generation, 4th generation, 5th generation. Let me just promise you this. On your 6th generation alone, when you build a big team all across the country, even in other countries around the world, when your group is fully mature, you'll make more money on your 6th generation alone than the first 5 combined. That's the power of duplication. That's the power of the math, okay? You make more money on your 6th generation alone than your first 5 generations combined. Okay? That's the power of a 6th generation breakaway compensation plan. Okay? So, I hope that this has helped you to visualize a little bit of what your task is. Okay? Yeah, you're going to get customers. Yeah, you're going to make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $2,000 a month on social media. You can do that. That's great. But learn how to transition these people. I thought Emma, her question last night, if you were here last night listening to what Emma Carpenter said, she said, ask them the question. Do you want to build a business or you just want to use the product? You want to sell a little bit? Great. Or you want to be a leader in this company? She said with different words than that, but that's in essence the question you're asking, right? And you don't have time to waste with people who don't want to do it, right? Do you have time to waste? You don't. You have no time to waste. Time is your most valuable thing. You don't ever want to waste any of it. You want to be effective with it, right? And so it's up to you to determine early who you're going to spend your time with. And if people start showing you signs that they're not as engaged, then you need to have a conversation with them. You need to say to them, look, I've noticed in the last 2 weeks that you're not calling me like you used to. I've noticed that maybe you're not posting like you used to. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on, because I need to make some decisions. I need to understand where you're at. Where's your head at in this business, okay? Tell me what's going on. Well, this is happening, where's happening. Right, life's going to happen. Will life keep happening to everybody? Are all distractions the same? Yep, they're distractions, okay? And that will happen. Life will keep trying to suck you back in to a non-leveraged environment. That's what's going to happen. And you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to fight like crazy to extract yourself from trading time for money your whole life and get yourself into a leveraged vehicle like this business is. And it'll take everything you got. And it's worth it to do it, right? In this business, you got to get it done, guys. Work when you're young. I love seeing all these people in their 20s and 30s because when you get to 60, you're not going to have the same energy as you had when you were 20 or 30. Why not go take those years in your 20s and 30s and build a global dynasty that can pay you for the rest of your life and secure your future? I can tell you what happens to people my age, okay? 10 years ago, it was all about, you get to this point where you're making some money and then all your kids start going to college. So all your money goes to the colleges, okay? And right as you think, well, this is when I need to be saving for retirement, but I can't because all my kids are going to college. You got to pay for all these bills, right? And then what happens, you finally get your kids done with college, you get them married off, and when they married my daughters, I said, they're on your payroll now, don't bring them back, So they're finally gone, but then what happens to you? Then your parents start dying on you. Now you're paying for all this medical care that Medicaid won't cover and they couldn't afford. And so now you're paying for nursing homes, you're paying for doctors, you're flying all over the place trying to help your parents be healthy. And they didn't maybe take care of themselves the way we would take care of ourselves today. And so they have a tougher exit out of this life. Tough stuff happens, right? And then it drains your bank account again. And then you're left at my age, where my mother's passed away in February, and that's the last of my two parents. And if I was not a new skin, I was just a normal guy working a normal job, I'd be going, holy smokes, my bank accounts are drained. Now I'm 58 and I'm supposed to save between now and 67 or 70. Can I ever retire? Not to mention maybe you make some stupid investments and you lose a bunch of money and the stock market turns down on you. It's tough, guys. It's tough to figure out how you're going to be okay in retirement, This is your plan. Execute your plan now. Thank you, guys. You can all sit down there. Thank you. So, we're out of time. I'm out of time. So, anyhow, I apologize. I've already screwed up the whole schedule. I walked away from the clock, and it says 0 now. So what's the power line? It's not a leadership team. A leadership team is 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, or 40,000 points, right? That's what a leadership team is. That's not a power line, guys. Power lines will make you $20,000 to $40,000 a month. If you go do what I just showed you, and you find a locker on level 4, 5, or 6, and you build that locker out to 500,000 points, then you got a power line. I honestly don't think that you are locked into this business for the rest of your life until your team's doing $500,000 a month or more in volume. You got to do 500,000 a month in volume. Once you do that, you're really, truly have built a power line. You're really locked in. Now, guys, you can sit there and think, whoa, those are crazy numbers. How would I ever do it? It's duplication, folks. It's duplication. And if you don't understand that, that's the key. You got to figure out what that is. Simple plans that are easy to understand that people can duplicate. I used to go out and build duplication models like every year. We'd freshen up the duplication model. And I haven't done that for a number of years now. And that's because people decided, well, we got too many products. I want to do this product. I want to do that product. I want to do this product. And so the business became more complicated. And the more complicated you make it, the slower the business will go. The more simple you can make the business, the faster it will duplicate, and the faster you can create volume in your organizations. Okay? So that's what a power line is supposed to do. So I'm just going to close with that, just so that you understand a little bit about what's possible in this company. What's available here for you. If you're frustrated and you feel like you're not growing the way you want to grow, then re-examine what you're teaching. Back up a little bit and ask yourself, where is it too complex? And eliminate the complexion, right? Do that. And then make sure that you focus on the simplicity and just teach it and teach it and teach it and teach it, and that's all you talk about. And then once you get that duplicating and people can get that running, it's like magic. You'll start to see your business grow. You'll see your teams grow. So simplify, right? Dan McCormick says it all the time. Simplify, multiply, electrify, right? Or something like that along those lines. And it's really true. Thank you so much for your attention today. Have a great summer.